Hello everybody and welcome to a game called Loving Life. Now I don't even remember where I found this game exactly, but I'm just gonna start it and see what it's about. I think I found this a while ago. This is a non-fictional story based on my own real life experiences. Okay. What is the purpose of life? Life existed around 2 billion years. Life existed for around 2 billion years, but the why of our existence was never answered. Everyone has different views. While the president argues that we need to make a difference, the genetic scientists argue that we must reproduce. An interesting aspect of life is that we are connected to our environment, our world, and from these instructions we are able to consistently change our emotions and modify our thoughts. I have discovered only recently that life is a complex and beautiful idea. I remember lying on a bed in a dark and gloomy room alone inside a hospital hundreds of miles away from home. The nurse hands me papers to write my will. I thought to myself, what have I really done with my life? The story begins in the autumn of 2008, my first semester as a freshman at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, I think. It was a chilly day. Halloween was 2 days away. The afternoon sun shined brightly at a steep angle upon my face as I walked back to the dorm building after a long lecture of calculus. Wednesdays were always the longest days of the week. Hey, cheer up a little, will ya? A voice sounded behind me as I stepped into and walked down the hallway to my dorm room. It was Brian, a good friend of mine. Brian was a very interesting man. I almost don't remember how we met or how we became friends, but somehow within the first couple weeks in the school year, we connected. We shared many similarities. Both wore glasses, both other called geeks, and both slightly chubby. I hit the wrong button. Okay. Yeah, I just got out of class. Got a midterm tomorrow, I replied. Okay. Ow, I'm sorry. Tests in college are significantly harder than high school, I feel like. I was from Colorado, went to Fairview High School in Boulder. I was involved in rigorous programs such as the International Baccalaureate Program and the Advanced Placement Program. After experiencing these adventures of education, my brain no longer felt like stimulation from these simple entry college courses. Really, I actually kind of feel the opposite. Although I attended the secondary school in Colorado, I was actually born and raised in Harbin, China. I moved to Boulder when I was around 10 years old with a single word of English. Life here was tough at first. Back in China, I was awarded the best student in class, best student in the district. So naturally, I was taught to be extremely competitive. When I first arrived at the US, I was looked down upon. Classmates and teachers thought of me as that dumb kid who can't speak or understand anything because of my inability to speak English. Our school did not offer ESL classes, and I was often bullied by others. A student was expelled for attacking me in the hallways only weeks after I arrived in the US. However, little changed. Although hard, I had never given up. I did as I was told. I followed the rules and obeyed life. Eventually, when I reached my high school years, I managed to not only catch up to others, but even surpass them academically, but at a cost. I was tired that day, and unfortunately, I had a midterm tomorrow. I finished conversing with friends quickly so I could return to my room to study. On the safe side, I kept my grades above a 95, so there was a buffer zone for my spontaneous laziness. Guess I was losing my competitive edge. Observe, what a mess. Study computer science. How do I... Oh, it's with arrow keys. Okay. What about that? I always felt uncomfortable in my dorm. I never understood why we had to pay so much to live and so little. I had one other roommate, and my room barely had space to fit a bunk bed and 2 desks with all the junk on the floor. I had a hard time even squeezing into my study area. As an actuarial science major, I was required to take a course in computer science. However, one of the options was computer science for non-computer science majors. It turned out to be an easy and useful class, and probably one of the best classes I had taken. We covered such topics such as HTML, SQL, and even VBA. In my 2 months where I had only attended one class, the first class, where the professor said attendance was not necessary and ended his lecture half an hour early, and I was able to maintain 100% in the class thus far. The second midterm tomorrow, I guess I better start studying. I don't know much about what this game's going to be. I guess I should move my mouse cursor out of the game. I decided to go to bed unnaturally early that day at around 11 p.m. I had somewhat of a nickname of Owl since middle school, partly because I loved owls, but more importantly because we shared similar sleep schedules. I never exactly took care of my health. I slept when I felt tired and ate when I felt hungry. It was fine enough. I was still young. There's a lot of reading in this. I don't know what this game is exactly about. After rolling around in bed for half an hour, followed by the interruption of my roommate slamming our room door coming in, I finally fell asleep. I had a recurring dream that night, the same dream I always had when I had a fever growing up. A nightmare I could not escape. Okay. What do I do here? I don't know. Do I need to click anything? No. I stood in the middle of endless grass, green and luscious. The horizon was light blue with beautiful sunlight shining through. The nearby sky, however, was covered by dark, thick smoke high in the sky. There was a loud humming noise, like a refrigerator with an amplifier. I felt the ground and my heart shiver in its rhythm. In front of me was a machine, large and black, and most likely the source of the humming sound. Hold on. I cannot hear myself talk over that audio. Hold on, where was I? And possibly the source of the smoke in the sky. I wasn't sure the machine was tall. I would say it was about 4 to 5 times my height, and it was about 3 meters away from me. It looked like a very tall computer, but it could also pass as a smaller sized factory considering how there were gears and pipes coming out of it. It stood completely motionless, but you could feel its inner operations mysterious and unknown. I'm hitting the button. I clicked out of the game. Okay, that's smart. The most interesting part, however, had to be the white speck on the left of the machine. Yeah, that looks like a bunny rabbit. I think it is. Oh, it's saying here anyway. Okay, on the left side of this large, dark factory computer machine, there was a small animal, a bunny sitting in pure white. The bunny did not move either, and it only stared back at me with soulless eyes and an expression which cried for help silently. The bunny looked so powerless, so innocent, and so pure. The world was in complete queasiness, I think. I don't know, except for the sound from the machine. Only the machine, the bunny, and I existed. The feeling translated to absolute horror in the consciousness of my mind, unsure why. Is the dream just fading away now? Yep, fading away slowly. Looking at the bunny and the machine sometimes, it almost felt like I was looking at a mirror. An image of myself. Suddenly, I started choking and felt a large stream of liquid gushing into my nose. I had been too familiar with this feeling. My nose started bleeding. I quickly applied pressure to my nose and sat up, jumped down from the top bunk. I grabbed a couple of tissues and ran into the community bathroom just a few steps outside my room. I think the music got a little too intense for a nosebleed. Although I had no chance to look at the clock, I was certain I hadn't had much sleep. I did what I usually do when I have a spontaneous nosebleed like this. Wash my face with cold water, then get a large ball of tissue and stuff it in the nostril. However, this time it was different. Copious amounts of blood splattered everywhere, almost continuously pouring out of my nose in a stream. I knew I was in for a rough night. Oh damn, you're having a nosebleed again? Is it bad? A friend walked in, seeing me stuffing my nose with tissue paper. My name is Zhenghua Yang. I never used an English name to go with my Chinese heritage. A good friend of mine from high school tired of trying to figure out how to pronounce my name, resorted to calling me Z. Since then, it started to catch on. Eventually, it became the name or letter that I would be referred to. Yeah, I guess pretty annoying too because I have a test tomorrow, I replied. Do you need help? I can lend you my notes. Nah, it's okay. I just want some sleep, actually. Our friend... I can't read that name. Was from India. I always found it amazing. I can't read the name because it's also in handwriting, and I can't pronounce it. I always found it amazing that he spoke English so fluently, even though he came to the US only a few months ago. I guess this discussion could go into how the Western civilization and advancements led to the age of explorations, but I'm not in the mood. My nose is bleeding. I'm just gonna put some tissue in and try to go back to sleep, I told him as I walked out, stuffing more tissue in my nose. Are you sure about it? You should tell my roommate about it. You should tell your roommate about it if something goes wrong. I'm just gonna... Oh wait, I already read that. Okay, he's already sleeping. It's alright. Okay. We walked out of the bathroom and past the commons area on my way back. Seemed like many people on our floor were still awake. That spot on your face, is that something wrong too? Pointing at the left side of my face. I felt it and noticed it was slowly bleeding. No, that's just a pimple. We're teenagers. This is common. Observe the commons area. Ask, what are you guys up to? Let's ask. We're studying for a midterm tomorrow. Maybe by talking about guitars, I overheard the conversation earlier. Shikhank was... Shikhank? I think that's how you pronounce his name? I have no fucking clue. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. Okay, yeah, we're taking a small break. Fuck, I can't talk today, God. I can't read anything. He always treated others with respect and kindness, something I couldn't understand. He was always very passionate about community service, again, something I wouldn't understand at all. I believed in social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. If you're sickly and aren't educated, then you deserve to lose. Why waste time helping those who are unfit to stay alive? Why waste your valuable time, Shikak, upon the people who aren't fortunate enough to keep ahead in the race? Sure was ironic thinking back on it now. I walked back into my room, grabbed my box of tissues, and climbed up to bed again, trying to sleep. My nose did not stop bleeding. I resorted to sleeping minutes at a time, followed by choking on blood and changing of tissues. Several hours passed while I tried to sleep with the bloody nose. After half a box of tissue later, blood was still pouring out. Is there a reason for this flashback? I had never really been healthy. In fact, I had been fairly unhealthy. I guess that was the price I paid for my achievements. I had been hospitalized several times in my life, many of which I no longer remember. The sun rose. Oh, I'm still here? Okay. I skipped my midterm that morning. I assumed blood gushing out of my nose was a valid excuse. I didn't mention it, but I like the style this game is done. It's all drawn. Like, I can see it's all drawn. The blood still had not stopped. Unsure if I was delusional from the lack of sleep or just the blood loss. I stayed in and ate random foods we had around the dorm room, mostly ramen. Before I knew it, it was already noon. I heard Brian coming back from a class a few rooms down, so I strolled over. Hey Brian, what's up? Holy cow, you're still bleeding? I didn't think it would last this long. Yeah, I thought I'd save money on my Halloween costume this year and go with the bleeding man. Well, I do give you credit for being comical under such intense circumstances, but we're going to the health center now, come on. It's actually getting better. I don't have to change tissues nearly as frequently. I think it's going to stop soon. Nope, we're going to see a doctor. The medical center is like a 5-minute walk. Let's go. Fine, but seriously though, it's slowing down a lot. Well, I'm really happy for you. He dragged me out of the room and out of the building, and we made our way to the health center a block away from our dorm. Brian is an excellent friend. He has a great sense of responsibility, self-control, and he exercises them with a touch of humorous sarcasm. I only recently witnessed the beauty of his character. One night, a few weeks ago, we were studying in the commons area. How long is this game? I don't know. I don't remember. I downloaded this game a long time ago, so I don't know how long it is. Brian and a few others, including myself, decided to order some pizza sticks to fight against hunger, while a few others said they had dinner and refused. Brian collected the money and made the order. Minutes later, the delivery boy arrived with a large box of pizza sticks. Being in the center area of the college dorm, this created commotion. Many of our friends gathered around, and we were bombarded with their pleas. "Oh, can I have one? I didn't have dinner tonight." "Wow, that smells nice. I'm just going to take one and head out if that's okay." The amount of people started accumulating. Before everyone started tearing our box apart, Brian stood up on top of a chair and yelled as loud as he could, "Hey, stop." He made a huge fuss. "Guys, I'm really sorry for being the douchebag here, but obviously we don't have enough for everyone, and I think it's only fair for people who actually paid to get any at all." "I'm just gonna take one slice though. Half? Just a bite, come on man," said a friend of ours who had already picked up a piece. "Nope, seriously, can't do that." Brian chuckled a little as he said it, probably out of nervousness. "Only people who paid can have it, no one else can." You can have one of my pieces," said a friend of ours who paid for the pizza sticks to the friend who didn't. "No, sorry, I think you're totally missing the point here. You can't do that," Brian immediately replied. Brian made a huge scene. He looked and probably felt like a selfish prick and an ass to his friends. However, his act struck me because he did something I had not the bravery to do. I had lived life with an assumption that my goal was to contribute and generate happiness for others. I never stood up for myself. I never spoke up when I felt like I needed to, and I rarely considered what would make me happy. Brian's actions, although on the insignificant topic, inspired me on an astronomical level. Because the pizza sticks belong to us, we all paid for it, so if you give yours away, then you'd be giving all of ours away. I spoke up, explaining the situation. "I have no idea what you mean, but okay, whatever, it's just pizza sticks." Her words made me feel silly. It was true, they weren't just pizza sticks, but I felt like that was not the point. People did not speak further after hearing my comment and went on with their own activities. We all then ate our pizza sticks in silence, knowing that although it seemed we acted selfishly, we were able to establish order, maintain our integrity, and satisfy the growling in our stomachs. It was clear I was not the only one thankful for Brian's actions. Why couldn't I be more like Brian, being able to stand up for myself and others? Well, that wouldn't be me, I guess. My role in the story is to stay quiet and fit in with others, right? I don't know. I'm confused. Your face doesn't look as red, Brian commented. Walking made me feel better. It distracted my mind away from staring at red ink leaking from my face. We walked past the trees and stepped into the entrance, approaching the front desk. "So you're in for a bleeding nose?" The receptionist perhaps, asked me after taking a glance. She wasn't exactly in the mood to work. "Yeah. How long have you had this nosebleed?" I looked down at my watch. "Around 13-14 hours. The nurse turned her head and stared at me in disbelief. "Wow, that long? You know, you're supposed to get medical attention if a nosebleed lasts more than 15 to 20 minutes. "Yeah, well, not really. Now I do, I guess." "Alright, fill out this form and have a seat." The waiting room was crowded. We found a couple of seats in a far corner. There were a couple of familiar faces here. People from my classes, but I acted as I should as a shy Asian kid and kept to myself. Observe girl from class sitting across from me. Frat guy. Recall I was here once before. Maybe I'll go recall, because that seems like a better option. I was here once before for free bottles of Advil. Our monstrous tuition covered weekly free bottles of Advil. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name properly. Sorry if I'm not. I'm really bad. I wonder if those pills actually helped someone. I would like to think so. I guess it kind of made me feel better knowing that I helped someone out there. After waiting a long time, we got called in, I'm guessing it said. So you had this nosebleed for 14 hours, said the doctor with a heavy Asian accent. That's really quite a long time. You're supposed to get medical attention if a nosebleed lasts longer than 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, I heard. Well, let's take a look. The doctor walked closer to me and pulled out the tissue in my nostril with the larger tissue. Much to my surprise, the nosebleed had stopped. Not a single drop of blood. Perhaps the walking helped. Do you know why this happened? Well, a couple of things. Blood usually needs platelets to clog properly. Platelets? I don't know what that says. Are these small cell fragments that flow in your bloodstream along with the other cells. Blah, 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 science stuff. Yeah, I have, but so there's something wrong with my platelets. I don't know if I'm saying that word properly either, but whatever. Yeah, this is not normally. Normally, nosebleed should not last longer than 15 to 20 minutes. This could be a case blood platelet deficiency resulting in blood not clotting properly, he said while smiling a creepy smile. Have you had any red dots or rashes on your skin recently? A couple weeks ago I had a cluster of red rash on the skin of my elbow. That was most likely what we call... I don't fucking know. Why are we talking about this now? Why are we talking about blood cells? This isn't important to the story, I don't think anyway. I was instructed to perform silly movements around the room. I nailed the test. Wonderful news. I was not bleeding into my brain. Everything looks good. I'm going to reschedule to come in tomorrow. But tomorrow morning to do a checkup to make sure everything was okay. For tonight, though, really makes me sure you don't do anything physical, because if you're still at a dangerous level, you'd want to stay safe. Try not to move around too much. Stay in as much as possible. Alright, I can do that. Okay then, before you leave, take this and go downstairs to get your blood drawn. He handed me a note for a lab test. I cursed in my head. I hated needles. Haven't I lost enough blood today? Right now? I asked, almost moaned. The doctor looked at me confused. Yeah, right now. Okay. I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on right now. After my blood draw, we headed back to the dorms in time for dinner. I thanked Brian for seeing me to the medical center. He headed late to his class. I walked back to my dorm room to find my roommate gone. Realizing I left my phone in my room just then, I picked it up to call my mom, thinking she might be interested in an update. 23 missed calls, all from Mom. I needed to call home more. I had not been in touch with my parents recently, at least not as much as my mom would have liked. I came from a very loving family, and with love came overprotection. My mom had always been worried about me when I was away, and for me to go to college had been her worst nightmare. She required me to call home every couple of days, which I followed at first. However, for one reason or another, I lagged home once and again. This time around, I had not called for weeks. There wasn't much need to talk to my parents, really. They were all good and well there. I can't fucking... You know what? When it comes to these kind of games that I have to read a shit ton of text, I can't do it for more than 20 minutes at a time. I start stumbling over my speech. I can't figure out what the hell I'm saying. Also, this is dragging on a long time. She was especially frustrated when I delivered news about the nosebleed. She told me that being an irresponsible vegetarian may increase the pH level of the blood, and sometimes that might lead to many autoimmune illnesses and other unwanted changes to the blood composition. I told her what the doctor told me, and she planned to research on platelet issues, and we'll call later. Platelet. Why didn't I just say it like that? I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced now. Okay then. The conversation closed with her telling me to stay safe and other things moms would say to their sons. I don't know how much longer this game is. It's been 25 minutes almost. 8 o'clock that night, my cell phone rang. Hello? Hi, this is from the health center. Am I speaking with Mr. Yang? Yeah? We have received the blood test from earlier today. I need to warn you that you are in a very serious condition right now. The blood report shows that you have a blood platelet of 23,000 per liter of blood. The normal range for this number is 137,000 to 383,000. Anything below 137 would be considered as in danger, and anything below 50 would be considered life-threatening. Ooh. Are we gonna die? Stunned, my brain was empty. I did not know what to think. The numbers were clear and made a huge emotional impact. I was, at this moment, not even half of the life-threatening level. This is obviously a very critical situation. Are you bleeding anywhere at the moment? Do you feel any pain anywhere? Dizziness, nausea, fatigue? I did not know how to react. I had to retrace what I heard to be able to answer the question. No, nothing like that. Okay, we do have an appointment scheduled for you tomorrow morning at 11:20 a.m. to check and see if your condition worsens. You need to make sure not to have any physical activity at all tonight because you are in danger right now. If you start bleeding anywhere at all, even from a paper cut, you will need to call us or dial 911 for medical attention. Okay, sure, I said half-heartedly, thoughts raced in the background of my mind. Okay, so my character is recalling the events leading up to him being in the hospital, I'm guessing. Half an hour passed as I sat motionless in front of my desk. How did this happen? What did I do wrong? What will happen because of this? Is something bad going to happen to me? Why don't I feel sick at all? Am I going to die? The fact was the illness was cold. I could not feel anything different than before. However, I noticed the pimple on my face again. It really was not just a pimple. I turned my head to look in the mirror. The spot on my face was bleeding still since days ago, constantly, and the skin under it looked pitch black. That was probably a sign of my low platelet count. I really should have paid more attention. Suddenly, a sense of depression fell upon me. I felt so powerless and so meaningless. It all happened so fast. Just yesterday, I was playing frisbee with friends out in the field. I was confused, unable to really accept reality. I took the least amount of physical movement possible that night, knowing that I may bleed elsewhere just as easily. I had a simple dinner and went to bed early, keeping in mind that I had to go back to the medical center tomorrow morning. That night, I slept like a log. What's happening now? Okay, oh. Half my vision is gone. The alarm clock called for me 3 hours before my appointment. Punctuality had been one of my strengths. Oh, it's just so the text can show up there, I guess. Punctuality had not been one of my strengths, whether for friends, family, or personal reasons. I once had an argument with Brian because I planned to leave for class 15 minutes earlier than he did. I guess being too early might mean that I was not punctual after all. I turned on my laptop and opened a packet of cereal, mixed it with milk, and gobbled it down while watching some Japanese anime show. Over the years, I developed a habit of eating while watching something, mostly TVs. My mom told me that it was a bad habit, and it would waste me more time than eating than if I ate normally. I kind of agreed, yet I kept doing it. I felt that this way I would not be wasting time eating. With the click of a mouse, I started recording myself in front of my computer. Since college started, I had been keeping a video journal, much like people on YouTube, about my daily life. I kept them private, though. The video journals were not meant to record just how I grew. Were meant to record just how I grew and changed under such a different environment. First time away from here, I never knew at the time just how valuable these short clips would become in my life. Today is October 31st, Friday, and it's Halloween, and I'm kind of dying. 2 days ago, I had a nosebleed for 14 hours from 1 a.m. to 3 p.m. I went to the health center, and they stopped it. They did a blood test, and apparently I have extremely low platelets in my blood, which means if I get a cut right now, it will not heal, and I will probably bleed to death. Any kind of small cut. So this morning I have an appointment at 11:20. Right now it's 11:06. I'm going to see my doctor right now, just checking in to see how I'm doing. It's not that good. That's about it. See you later. The hallway was filled with Halloween decorations and costumes, fake spider webs, ugly face paint, annoying pumpkins, and scarecrows. Straw from the scarecrows was scattered all over the floor. My webcam's still recording, right? Okay, hold on. After this text, I'll read this text in a second. I'm gonna have to cut my webcam here because I was recording another game earlier and my webcam cut off after half an hour, so see you guys in just a second. Okay, back now. I just had to cut that real quick so I didn't lose my recording. I hated Halloween, and it had been an aroma of negativity for me annually. I had a tradition of ending up in the hospital on this day every year. In 7th grade, I was in the hospital for severe pneumonia on Halloween. In 8th grade, I broke my left wrist on Halloween, wore a cast for 4 months. As the time went on, the list went on. Another addition to that list today. I clicked out of the game, of course I did. There we go. The health center was filled with the worthless Halloween decorations as well. The employees had their point that no one aimed to work today. Greeted by the bumblebee receptionist, I was directed to another blood draw. Great. I called my mom while waiting for the doctor. I spoke Chinese like we all did at home. I told her about my 23,000 platelet level, and she told me that I had bleeding issues growing up as well, something I never knew. She also insisted on coming over from Colorado with my dad and visiting me to make sure I was fine. The nurse called for me to go inside. I hurried in after saying bye to my mom. I met with a different doctor, a large man in a shiny fairy costume with what I hoped were fake breasts. With rainbow glitter and a golden crown, he was quite a traumatizing sight to witness. Oh, don't mind me, I'm just the Halloween fairy. The office wanted to do a fairy-themed Halloween this year. I see. Yesterday afternoon, you came in due to a bleeding nose which lasted 14 hours, am I correct? Yeah. Did you have any other symptoms of bleeding since then over the night or this morning? No, I didn't. Wait, is my character lying about the pimple? Because he said it was still bleeding. Didn't he? Didn't he? He said no, it wasn't a pimple. It was a spot on his face that was still bleeding. He said that in the text this morning. I saw that. He pulled out the paperwork and glanced that I'm at 20,000 now. Okay. He pulled out the paperwork and glanced at it. That shows clear indication of dropping, which is not good. I'm going to write your files up and you should get someone to drive you to the hospital. Once you get there, go to emergency and hand them this file. They'll take care of everything for you. His words scared me. I had no idea how to react. Sinking feelings of despair hit. I'm getting worse. I have to go to the hospital. Emergency 2. What about my tests, school, work, education in general? I have to go today. He looked at me confused. Now, actually, right now. I have a test coming up. I was actually planning to do some studying. The doctor laughed really hard, then replied, "Believe me, school tests are the least of your concerns right now." I paused a little. With my envelope of information, I stepped out and called my only friend with the car, Thaddeus. He helped me and my friends by driving us to the local Walmart from time to time. He was deeply religious, and I really appreciated his presence on my dorm floor. What? Whatever. I called him and he picked up. "Hey Z, how's it going?" "Hey Thaddeus," I said weakly, "I might need your help." "Alright, what's up?" "Have you heard about my recent sick thing?" "Yeah." "How are you feeling? Are you okay?" "Apparently, I'm not actually okay. I'm at the medical center right now, and the doctor told me I need to go to the hospital and go to emergency." Oh no, that's really bad. Are you okay right now? Do you need me to give you a ride? Yeah, that's why I'm calling. I kind of need a ride, and you're the only person I know who has a car. Alright, no problem. I'll come over in a few minutes. Do you need anything else? I can bring some stuff if you need it. No, that's alright. Thanks so much. I really appreciate this. No problem at all. I'll be there in a few minutes. Sit tight. I was naturally polite to Thaddeus because he was polite in general. I felt that his politeness pushed people away, alienating himself from others. Maybe I was wrong. Perhaps I felt that way because I was usually mean and insensitive, someone with obvious and insolent humor around my friends. Maybe that was why Thaddeus and I never became the best of friends. We had different views on how to live life and how to treat people. I always had the feeling that people who are polite were just pretending to be nice, and that in secret all people are evil and selfish in nature. Just like the Bible said, we were all born sinners. Thaddeus arrived promptly along with whatever his name is and Brian. I can't pronounce the name, sorry. Hey guys, Thaddeus, thanks so much for this. I really do appreciate it, I said as I entered the car. My friends greeted me with warmth. Yeah, sure, no problem. How are you feeling? I'm, not really alright, I don't think. Can't really say. I'm not too sure about what's going on. You need to be careful. Are you alright? Do you feel okay? Didn't you just answer that? Yeah, I feel okay. I was mostly scared and overwhelmed. I was glad that Thaddeus knew the exact location of the hospital. I had always been poor in my directional sense. I can't read for longer than half an hour at a time. Whenever I went anywhere, I always made sure I brought a friend. If I didn't, I would be lost no matter how familiar I was with the area. My dependence on others had always been a hindrance in life. Whether they were my parents or my friends, I never understood how people started their own businesses in high school or how people traveled the world by themselves as kids. I guess I never took charge of and never had real direction in life. I chose conformity and anonymity, throughout my teenage years and never questioned that choice. Rushed into the emergency room, I handed the nurse my large envelope of documents and was told to wait. I was pleasantly surprised when a nurse called me in minutes later, only soon to be unpleasantly surprised when a large group of doctors and nurses started observing me. Doctors and nurses alike hurried left and right around me, and before I realized it, the room was packed with lab coats all around me. Mr. Yang, an old bald doctor, initialized the conversation, staring intensely. I'm not going to read the rest of that. That's just explaining how he did it. Yes? We must proceed to examine your conditions immediately. You are currently in critical danger. Yeah, the platelets decreased since yesterday by 3,000. Excuse me, did you say by 3,000? Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry, you've been mistaken. Yesterday you were at 23 platelet count. Am I correct? Yeah? Right now you are at 2,000 total. See this number here? That's in the thousands. He pointed to a number on the paper. It says 2 next to the normal range. Oh, shit. Did the doctor at the health center say it was 20,000? Yeah, wait, so if I'm only at 2,000 right now, total? Yes, sir, that is the number from yesterday. He pointed to another number on the different sheet of paper, 23. Your platelets have dropped 21,000 within half a day's time. Having 2,000 platelets is extremely dangerous, and we must place you under care. For comfort and reassurance, I looked over at my friends, and they had their eyes wide open. I wasn't able to comprehend what happened just yet. They put me in a wheelchair, and I was rolled into an exam room as the group of lab coats followed me. All of them had notebooks open and pen in hand, taking notes as they walked. They never stopped staring at me. They were probably PhD students. This is a severe case of ITP, which stands for idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura? I don't fucking know. The case of the illness is usually unknown, but most likely due to an immune system malfunction. Some symptoms include large spontaneous bruises all over the body. Check, I had around 11, each one larger than my palm. Again, probably another signal that I should have paid attention to. Large clusters of red dots on the body, seemingly like a rash, but if you press on it, they stay red. Check, the rash on my arm from a week ago, definitely not due to dry weather. Muscle ache or other internal organs not healing. Check, my muscles have been aching incrementally, and since I worked out a week ago, I could barely get out of my bed sometimes, due to the pain. How is it that I never made the connection? How have you recently had any colds or flu? I had a cold a couple weeks ago. That may have been the cause, for instance. What about any family history of illness, HIV or HIV-related illness? Not that I know of. My mom used to have an extended nosebleeds when she was young, and so have I. What's the frequency of your nosebleeds, and how long do they last? The students stared at me with their notebooks in hand, as if I was able to share with them the answers on their upcoming test. About once a week, an average, as I was growing up, and they're usually around half an hour or longer. They look down and jot down their answer, awaiting response from the leading physician. That is way too frequent. From the time you're given, it would support the fact that you might have had ITP all your life, which would make the case chronic. Did you know nosebleeds shouldn't last longer than 15 minutes? Yeah, I'm well aware. So tell me the medical history of your family. Well, my parents, before I finished, have felt something way too familiar again. Oh, it's a nosebleed again. My nose spontaneously burst with blood, splattering everywhere. The nurses and students were amazed and whispered amongst themselves upon the sight. The doctors took steps back to avoid the blood splatter, and then a couple of nurses rushed in with a plastic clamp for my nose to prevent further bleeding. Without any time for me to respond, they already started rolling my bed out the door. We're going to have to take an ultrasound and a CT scan to see in detail if there is any bleeding inside your body, the doctor stated, more as command than a suggestion. Hold on, I held up my hand to pause them. Take my cell phone, I shoved it in my hand. Call my mom and tell her what's going on. Immediately afterwards, I was rolled out the door. The tests were painful. I was unsure at that point as to why, perhaps a combination of my aching and my emotional hopelessness. Slowly, while lying on the machine, life started to fade away. My stomach repulsed, my head muffled, the world darkened, and then faded out of view. It was called Oh, I see there, okay. Okay, what's going on now? Why am I seeing a snowy cabin? It was freezing. I was freezing and knee-deep in the snow. Shit! Phone's gonna run out of battery, hopefully this finishes soon. And one knee-deep in snow. The snow reminded me of my hometown in Harbin during the coldest days of the year. Snow was pouring down densely, making it hard to see, but the air was calm. There was no wind, the sky was dark and gray. It was hard to see with the snow. I was rolling my father, who for some reason was in a wheelchair, towards a small wooden cabin around 80 yards away. The cabin looked lifeless and dead. I frequently had dreams about my father being in a wheelchair, even though in terms of physique, he was probably healthier than me, so this was not surprising. As I approached the cabin, I saw figures moving inside. From the movements, I could tell they were my paternal grandparents. With excitement, I rushed in with my father. Inside, it was cold, dark, and gloomy, with the cold, colored lighting. My Both my grandpa and grandma were pale and also in wheelchairs. I ran up to them and hugged them, crying about how much I missed them. I hadn't seen my grandparents for many years. I knew my grandfather had lung cancer, so we couldn't talk over the phone. Both my father and I cried with them. Their bodies felt cold. My grandma asked me if I was doing well and said as long as I was happy, life was worth living. I told her that I was doing fine and that I was very happy. My grandpa did not speak. He only smiled, the same kind and gentle smile he displays every time we meet. My grandma stopped talking shortly after and sat there, also smiling. The world blurred once more. The colors faded fast. My entire body felt cold, especially my jaw. I woke up finding the nurse stuffing ice into my mouth to keep me hydrated. I said hi to her and inquired about my blackout. She explained it was due to low blood pressure, but everything was fine now. Little did I know that at this exact moment my grandfather went to the final stage of cancer and passed away shortly on the other side of the world. My healthy grandmother followed him weeks later due to an unexplained heart failure. I was only told years later because my parents wanted to ease the pain. I love my grandparents very much, and may they both rest in peace. This got deep pretty fast. Really fast. I was rolled into a hospital room. My friends were there waiting for me, and they looked relieved to see me. I just now noticed the different machines I was now attached to. Are you alright? Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry to see that you guys are still waiting here. It's fine. Stop saying things like that. Do you want something to eat? It's dinner time. Yeah, I could eat. We'll get something and bring it back here. What would you like? Anything's fine. My friends left to get food after giving my cell phone back. I was just about to make a call when a nurse came into my room with some paperwork in her hands. Mr. Yang? Yeah? Here's the paperwork for you to fill out your will. Will? What? Character does die, doesn't he? I thought to myself, not understanding her words. I continued to stare at her, waiting for her to finish. Noticing our disconnect, she started explaining again. Have you heard of a will? She tried to be sensitive. I finally understood her words, but I did not understand what she meant. Oh yeah. Has the doctor come in yet to tell you? I haven't seen anyone come in. The nurse opened her eyes wide, possibly realizing the cause of the disconnect we had been having. She stood still for a second and then continued. Well, as you know, right now you have around 2,000 platelets. She spoke very slowly and softly, trying to make no mistakes. Usually, by hospital procedure, anything below 5,000 to 10,000 platelets would be considered fatal. I continued to stare at her, thoughtless. With such low platelets like that, and the severity of your illness, there's not much we can do. She took a large pause. We have tried our best, but we're unable to quickly raise your platelet counts due to the seriousness of your illness. The antibodies in your blood make the effects of transfusion slow if they even work at all. Your bruises indicate that we should be expecting you to have several severe internal bleedings in the near future, most fatal being inside the brain. Am I going to die? I wanted to cut to the chase. We've done the best we can, Mr. Yang. I chuckled a little. There was a long pause in our conversation, then she started again. The doctor had said that you will have maybe a few more hours to finish your will and your dinner. I remained motionless. After a while, the nurse walked out, saying, if you need anything, let me know. I understand this must be hard to take in. I'll be right outside. I looked down at the paper she handed me. Last will and testament of best it known that this day... Oh, okay, I'm not supposed to read that, okay. Only then, after reading these words, I had fully understood the situation. I was going to die and only had a few hours to live. Tears started dripping from my eyes. However, it was not because I wanted to live longer. I looked back on the short 18 years that I had lived in and thought about what I did with my life. I saw the most beautiful pictures, the most fantastic moments. I remembered when my father left China in 1996. He hugged me and cried and promised me that we would work really hard so that both my mom and I would move out to the US and live together here once again. I remembered how 4 years later he kept just to his promise, saving his money every day those years, with only the one goal of reuniting my family. I remembered my middle school years. I struggled so much because of my inability to speak English. However, I always had friends who looked out after me. I worked hard in school and hard outside of school to catch up to others. In 2004, I was not only elected the president of the Boulder Amateur Radio Club, I was also selected to give a speech to hundreds of people in Dayton, Ohio, on the topic of amateur radio and cultural acceptance. After practicing for the speech for months, I made no mistakes and I made the auditorium go wild. Not only have I learned to embrace my cultural heritage, I've also grown to love public speaking. I remembered my high school years. The transition was taught, but I bore it with joy. Although I was introverted, I always had great friends who cared and guided me every step of the way. I lost my own identity, and together with my friends, we built new ones for ourselves. Going through IB and AP classes, participating in clubs, or just playing cards outside the library, I always had people who loved me, people who cared for me, no matter what. I remembered the handful of weeks I had in college. Being a foreigner, I knew no one. However, in the short amount of time, I was embraced by friends who supported me and appreciated me for who I was. No matter how introverted and cynical I could be sometimes, people whom I connected with, Brian, Shikan, sorry if I mispronounced his name, Thaddeus, and many others had all been so caring, so loving of me. I cried, but not because I wanted to live longer. I cried because I then realized how painful it must have been for people in my life who loved me. I considered my family, my friends, all of whom had given me everything. In the short 18 years I was allowed, what had I done to give back? What had I done to deserve all of their love? People always say life is short, so make the most of it. They're right. Life is a very complex idea. I don't know the meaning of life or why we're here. However, I have learned that life can truly be fragile and that you must make every second count. I lived life. My voice is starting to choke, and my eyes are actually starting to water. I'm not trying to not cry. You are. I lived life in a secluded manner, pessimistic, cynical, introverted, and unsociable, were only a few of the terms that describe me. Truth is, I never took the time to look back upon my life and appreciate all the opportunities I had been given. Grades aren't everything. People are not determined solely by a number or a letter on a paper. Being shy only hurt my chances in life. Drowning myself in Japanese cartoons or video games adds no value to personal growth. And here I am playing a video game. After 18 long years, and looking at how life had treated me. What did I have to present, to give back to the world? I never recognized this until now. I loved my life, and it loved me back. I did not want to abandon my family, my friends, and all the people who loved me, leaving them with only grief and sorrow. I wanted to continue living for everyone and spread happiness upon them all. Is that the end? So I did. A few days later, I returned to Colorado with my parents and have been recovering here since. No one could explain just why I did not die that one fateful night. The doctors were certainly amazed. My illness was later determined to be the first case on current medical record. Even with modern medicine, nothing worked. After 2 long years of hospitalization, I decided to return home. Miraculously, once I stopped all the experimental medications, my condition improved significantly. In the spring of 2011, I had recovered enough to go back to school, this time as a student of finance and economics at the University of Colorado in Boulder. I reminisce on that moment when I sat in that gloomy hospital room thinking about my past. Now I think about my future and what my illness has taught me. I set myself to no longer be the introverted, timid, and pessimistic person who I was, and instead become a friendly, outgoing, and positive icon for happiness. If Brian was able to take a stand for his friends over pizza sticks, then so can I. I am no longer the bystander, silently observing others, fantasizing about what could happen. Now I take actions to pursue my dreams and give back to others my newfound hope. Every day of my life counts. I have become a beacon of happiness, bravery, and success. My proudest achievement thus far must be the Serenity Forge, a video game development team I started once I returned to Colorado. I turned a valueless hobby into valuable experiences and goals. I always had the dream to develop video games, pushing the medium into the realms of art. Trying not to let my voice break. Now, together with all my friends and colleagues here in Serenity Forge, I can achieve just that. I know that life is beautiful and that I am lucky to be alive. I was given a second chance. Every second of our lives counts. Every second of our lives is an adventure. I thought it said counts for some reason. Every second of our lives is an adventure which we must embrace. I love my life and I will give my all to make the most of it. For myself and for all those who love me back. Do not make the same mistakes I did. Do not wait until your second chance to truly appreciate the people around you. Go out there and tackle the world with your head held high. Only then will you be living to your fullest potential as the beautiful person you are and as the amazing person that life deserves. Is that it? I think that might be it.
so much for playing through the story and supporting the Serenity Forge video game development team. This story was in fact a true story, even down to the details of the dreams I had at the time. This all happened about 4 years ago for me, and I am now 22 years old, going to school at Boulder, Colorado. I would like to take this time to thank some of my friends and colleagues who not only made this possible, but also supported me every step of the way during my illness. I've always wanted to share my story somehow, and this all started when I had the realization that a visual novel program for the computer would be fun to produce and would be the perfect medium for me to tell my story. With no programming knowledge and no digital art knowledge, I went ahead and dove right into it.
Your handwriting is fine, I'm just bad at reading.
Wrote the script, and programmed the entire game myself. I even made the font after my own handwriting. But of course, I wouldn't have done it without all of the help from my friends. Writing can be tedious sometimes, especially when you write alone. Here are some of my friends who helped me edit the script of the story. Thank you all so much for your help. Special thanks to Carrie and Taylor. You both helped me tremendously in your edits, and you're really the reason.
Okay, I would love to listen to this, but I don't have long.
I started this project with no programming knowledge.
Actually, you know what? I'll listen to it.
I'll
listen to all of it.
For not only
this game deserves it.
My dumb programming issues, but also consistently being inspirational whenever I program. Most importantly, as you have noticed, the music in this game was phenomenal. And that's because the music was composed by several friends of mine.
Okay, so it's not copyrighted. Good.
John's scream was used during the flashback sequence about the pizza sticks. Paxton's variations on the word hope was used for the final scene in the hospital room and the sunrise backdrop. Taylor's Somnium was played during the 2 dream sequences, and now most development team on other projects. David Foreman, out of the 11 songs in the game, he composed 8 of them.
Really?
And 7 of them are fully polished songs lasting several minutes long.
Jeez.
I won't go into the details on individual songs, but they are all amazing, especially the final credits music he composed, which you're listening to right now. Thank you so much for all of your help. I could not have done this without you, David. If you enjoyed the music, you can find the fully downloadable original soundtrack of the game on our website.
And I'll put that in the description as well.
These wonderful musicians. This experience truly changed my life. Looking back at how fragile life was, I learned to make every second count. I really wanted to share my experience with others, so that people my age would realize how precious life is and how easily it could slip away. Thank you once again for supporting me and the Serenity Forge video game development team. I hope you enjoyed the experience. I know I have. Definitely look forward to our future projects as well. I guarantee you that they'll actually be playable games from here on out. Thanks again.
Holy crap. And that's it. To be continued. I'm guessing that's continuing with more games. I don't know exactly when this came out. I don't know if it's going to close once it's done. Is it just going to close? No, I think it's going back to the main menu. I think. I don't know. Holy crap. I actually got emotional near the end of that. I didn't expect that at all. In the beginning it seemed to drag on, but I'm glad I played that game. I'm glad I played that game. And I know there's probably no chance the developer's watching, or even if the developer did watch, I doubt he made it to the end, but if you did, this was a good game. And it was based on his life experience, which is just insane to think about. I didn't cry. You did. I didn't. You did. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. The soundtrack is beautiful in this game, by the way, especially the main menu music. I'll put that down in the description as well, along with the game. If you want to play it for yourself, it'll be linked in the description. This was over an hour long, so I'm probably just going to upload it one part. Thank you if you sat with me for an hour. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.